Here's another gait example that I want to share with you that exemplifies a good point that you can get a really good cue for somebody to start, but they might not be good at it to start. And sometimes using other exercises or drills or even different cues can really help them actually improve their cue and make them even better with it. So here's an example of somebody that was having some PSIS based pain when they were walking. And you can see just very quickly looking at it, I'll show you some of the what the gait looks like. But you can see the score was 11.89, and the primary factor was left pelvic drop amid stance and left knee flexion at initial contact. And if you just look from the back here, you can see how just, on the right side, hips are pretty level, but on the left side, we're seeing that drop. And if we look at some of the numbers, it was 4 degrees of drop on the left and 2 degrees of drop on the right that we saw. So the cue that we used here at first was just to walk tall. And that was something we wanted to see, just how that affected. I find this for walking can be effective for somebody with contralateral pelvic drop. And I had her do a couple just hip hikes on the treadmill before she started doing the cue, just to get her to activate and create a little brain body connection there. And she did a nice job of this to start, where we saw that her score went from mid 11s to 9.26. Her primary factor was still left pelvic drop amid stance and the knee flexion. So it didn't change a lot of her mechanics. She was still 4 degrees on the left and one on there. So I wanted to try just a different cue with her to see. She did say it felt better, that she could notice that a little bit more core recruitment to walk tall while she was walking. And so 9.26 is good. That's a good one. And we knew that we had something to go off of, but I wanted to push it a little bit more. So I kind of educated her and I showed her the video and showed her what it looked like for the pelvic drop and the two markers and how one was going lower than the other. Then I had her put her hands on her PSIS while she was walking and just say, imagine, that's a bowl of soup, or imagine trying to keep those level while you're walking. And her score went down even further. She went down to 7.18. And now you notice that there's no longer pelvic drop as one of the primary secondary factors, where it went down to 2 on the left side, where it started at 4. And we could see an improvement with this. But you'll also notice that some of the trunk metrics were worse because we had her with her hands on her PSIS, so that affected some of her trunk rotation and trunk flexion that had an impact on it. But she started actually having a little bit of symptoms while she was doing this, which was interesting and gave us some more information. So I said, all right, let's go back now to walk tall. Now that you've experienced what it's like to have the pelvis in neutral, let's go back to it and see how that feels. So we had her walk tall again, and she was able to say the symptoms instantly went away and she no longer had them. And now she was down to 6.78. And we saw that pelvic drop kind of went back up just a little bit there, but we saw that the score came down and she was able to get rid of her symptoms. So that got a lot of buy-in. But what I think this case is really good to show is that you can find a cue, and even finding the cue based off of the categories or based off of the primary secondary factor can be really helpful. But don't expect people to be perfect at it right away. What we noticed is that as we took her through and got her to feel what that was like to not have as much pelvic drop, we were able to see that going back to the previous cue, she was even a little bit better overall. And this gives us a good idea of plan of care, where we're going to want to be focusing on core activation, some exercises, teaching pelvic neutral, maybe looking specifically at pelvic mobility to see if there could be some contributing factors there, or why she started having symptoms when she actually reduced some of the pelvic drop. That lets me think that that might be a little bit of a muscular activation thing that we need to look at. Could that be something where she's co-contracting, or maybe oblique involvement was contributing to it? So I think it's a really good point, though, that we brought her significantly down from mid 11s to high 6s for her score, and she felt better with it. So that was a pretty significant thing. And now we had a much better idea for a plan of care, what we should be focusing on and she was excited to be doing her exercises coming out of here, where before, sometimes people aren't always thrilled to be given exercises. She was like, I want a plan, tell me what to do. So we had her just walking for the first 5 minutes. She did a walk twice a day. First 5 minutes, focus on walking tall. And then anytime she has symptoms, and I'm going to bring her back within 7 to 10 days, we're going to do that. And we're doing some interesting things just to really get her core activated too. So just wanted to share another great example of don't be afraid if the cue isn't great, and don't just stop the first time you find improvement. Keep going and see if you can even refine it and get the score to be even a little bit better as you're going.